This is the Marketing Minute with Eric Rhoads, author of the #1 Amazon bestseller, Make More Money Selling Your Art, Proven Techniques to Turn Your Passion into Profit.
So in some ways I'll contradict CW because first off, I want you to be able to live the life that you want to live and the dream that you want to live. And everybody has a different purpose, right? So some people it's about money, some people it's about fame, some people it's about something else. That's not up to me to figure that out. It's up to you to figure that out. And sometimes making money isn't about making money, it's a means to an end, right? So it might be about because you want to travel more, or you want to take your family on experiences, or you want to start a charity or whatever it is. So you do with it what you will. That's just up to you. But anyway, Amadine, our producer from France, is going to give us the first question.
The first question is from John Roberts from Oklahoma City. How do you know when your art is good enough to sell?
Well, John, thank you so much. And I love Oklahoma City. I've been there many times. I've got great stories, but I won't get into them right now. I think one of two things happens, John. Either you're feeling your artwork is better than it is, or you're feeling it's not good enough. I go through those moments. I have moments when I'm feeling like, wow, I really think I aced it. I really think I did a great job on that. And then you have other moments like, I can't even paint. I'm not sure. And so, the question about whether or not you're ready for prime time, that's kind of a loaded question. I remember a friend of mine out in California, Carol. Carol was working with her mentor, and her mentor, for many years, and her mentor said, "You're not ready yet. You're not ready yet. You're not ready yet." And looked at her work and I said, "I think you're ready." And so she went out, immediately got a gallery, immediately started selling work, and it was selling successfully. Her mentor was looking at it from a different perspective, which was, you can be better. And by the way, you can be better. You're always going to be better. You're always going to be growing. And you're not always going to be completely satisfied with your work. I walked into my art gallery, one of three that I'm in, and this woman who worked with the art gallery was kind of giving me a tour of my walls, and I saw a painting that I had done years and years earlier, and I cringed, right? So I thought, well, that doesn't really live up to anything I do anymore, and I really probably should, burn it. But I didn't say anything, thankfully. And the woman said, "This is my favorite painting in the entire gallery. And as a matter of fact, I'm making payments to own it." And I was like, wow. And that really said something to me. And I think it's an important thing. And that is that no matter what your journey is in art, there are people who are going to come along on the journey no matter where you are. Now, maybe if you're doing, sixth grade quality art and you're just really not doing very well, maybe that's not quite ready yet, although we've all seen art that makes us feel like that. I think that the best way to find out is to ask. And what do you mean? What do I mean by that? Well, I like to have a panel of people who are trusted experts. If you ask your mother or your father or your brothers or sisters or your best friends, they're going to tell you how wonderful you are because they love you. But how do you get somebody to tell you how horrible you are? Now, you don't want to hear that, but that's the reality you need to hear if that's the case. And the reason you want to have multiple people to ask is because if 3 out of 4 say you're wonderful and 1 out of 4 says you're awful, then go with your instincts on that. Somebody again may think, well, you need to be developed to the level I am. Well, they might not be. So what I would do is, first off, I'd say to myself, am I going to sell locally? If I grow up in, let's say it's Indianapolis, if I'm in Indianapolis, how good do I need to be in Indianapolis? Well, I think you got to be pretty good to be in Indianapolis, my take on it. But I would say I'm going to ask some local people. So I would call a gallery owner, and by the way, or curator, I would call somebody who is within the range of what you do. If you're a modern art painter and you call somebody who does traditional realism, they're probably not going to respond well to what you do. So call somebody who's an expert in modern art. If you're a traditional painter, call somebody who's a traditional expert. So locally, call a couple galleries, call a curator, call a couple of artists, and say to them, and I mean this sincerely, and you have to be willing to do this. Say to them, listen, I need some help. I need to understand where I am, and I need some perspective because I can't see it myself. And I'd be willing to pay you for a half an hour or an hour of your time if you'd be willing to look at some of my paintings and give me some feedback on whether I'm ready. And if I'm not, what do I need to hear? And by the way, I give you permission not to say anything nice. This is not about hearing compliments. I truly want to know where the problems lie because you can't see them. Maybe you can, but one way to see them is to put your paintings away for a year and then look at them a year later. Sometimes you can see them. But I would do that if you're going national, if your goal is to be nationally recognized or worldwide recognized, then go for some people who are outside of that local market as well and get some feedback from them because, depending on the level of what the local person is seeing, somebody who's at a national level might see things differently because they're maybe seeing a lot more artists, a lot more work. And so find out from an expert, how do you feel? And remember to give them permission to be negative because you're not trying to get compliments. As a matter of fact, just rule that out. Say, I don't want any compliments. You don't have to say anything nice. Tell me what's good. Or tell me what's right, what's wrong. And and then that way I know how to improve. And then once you find that out, then you got to figure out, okay, how do I get there? How do I improve? How do I push through this? And you can figure that out. That's something. The other thing that I would say is be careful not to call on galleries that you want a foot in the door in. In other words, don't do this pretend thing of, hey, I want you to look at my work. I'm willing to pay you to look at it in hopes that they'll say, hey, would you come into my gallery? Don't even go to any galleries that you hope to get into because I think that could backfire on you, and I don't want you to do that. So that's just one thought. Another thing is I learned a really interesting lesson because uh, as I went through my painting journey, there were people who said things to me like, "Oh, pretty colors," or "Oh, interesting approach," or "interesting composition," or "Wow, that tree really is nice," and they're kind of hesitating. They're looking for something nice to say. And, we all want to have our compliments, but, you're hearing that hesitation or you're hearing they're not giving you what you would believe are genuine comments. It probably means there's a problem. And the problem is something you can't see. And so, you're trying to get around that problem. But what I noticed is I had picked out a very prominent painter and spent a lot of time with this painter and said, I really need you to help me work on some stuff because I had done that. I knew where some of my weaknesses were. And I worked with this painter and then I kind of stuck to just figuring this stuff out for a year or something. After about a year, I was getting unsolicited compliments that were not pretty colors, but wow, that's really a spectacular painting. Who did that? Well, I did it. And that's like, oh, wow. I didn't expect that. So, you want to look for things like that. So keep an eye out and that will help you. Okay, Amadine, what's our next question?
The next question is from Christine Kazowski Cernitish from Delmar, Iowa. How does entering contests help? They are not cheap, so are they really?
Well, the first thing you got to get over, Christine, is that competitions are quote unquote not cheap. You've got to ask yourself, why am I entering a competition? And I have some very specific thoughts about that. And of course, I have the plein air salon competition. So I understand it pretty deeply. And I've been a judge in many of other competitions, including the Art Renewal Center competition. And I will tell you this, that there are good competitions and there are not so good competitions. Some competitions are just about getting your money. and you want to look at the quality of artwork that are getting picked and winning, and ask yourself, is this something that's living up to the quality that I like? And if it is, great, go for it. But you can check it out, talk to people, see what they like, and so on. The other thing is, the most important reason to enter a competition has nothing to do with winning the competition. Now, that probably sounds odd, but it's about your head. It's about your mindset. It's about putting yourself out there. You see, if you're an amateur artist and you're deciding to start working towards selling your paintings or getting noticed or marketing yourself, then you have to have a different mindset. And that mindset changes everything, right? Because if you're suddenly you're about to upload a painting that you've done, knowing you're going to be judged by a famous judge or gallery owner or something, and knowing that you're going to be competing with some pretty darn good artists, now you're looking at that painting. It's kind of like you never notice the stuff in your own house until you have a visitor. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I need to paint that wall. It's got dirt on it. Right. So it's the same kind of approach. Once you feel and figure out that you're putting yourself into the game, you're going to treat your art differently. You're going to try harder. You're going to work to push yourself more. And that's going to have a positive impact. That is a great reason. The first time I entered an art competition, uh, that's exactly what happened to me. There was like 3 or 4 weeks to enter, and I was getting ready to upload it, and then I started thinking about it. Thought, this isn't really there yet, and I worked on it for 3 or 4 weeks intensely until I got it there. Now, I didn't even win an award. I didn't get an acknowledgement. Nothing happened, but I could see the positive impact on myself. Now, that's one reason that you want to do it. And you want to kind of get yourself into what I would call a professional mindset. Now, not everybody enters because they're professional. Sometimes it's nice to know that that other people like your work, or that other people appreciate your work, or that somebody who knows art likes your work. Even if you're an amateur, that's a beautiful thing. And that's worth going for as well, because we all need recognition. But you say that entering a competition is expensive. But if you think about it, most competitions are 30 or 40 bucks to enter. That's a lot of money. I get it. But what if you became a finalist and you got listed on some of the promotion, and maybe there was a page showing all the finalists, and your work is seen and your name is seen, that you're buying basically an ad that's probably worth thousands of dollars for 30 or 40 bucks. And even if you enter 20 times to get to that point, you're probably still ahead of the game because because of that happens. And the more you enter, the better you're likely to get, the better you're likely to push yourself. So that's another thing. Now, also, as a marketer and teaching marketing, there is the marketing aspect, right? If you're looking for recognition from, let's say, a gallery, and you want to get invited into a gallery, if you could pay any amount of money, let's say there was a top gallerist, and you were like, I wish I'd pay $100, I'd pay $1,000 to get that gallerist to look at my paintings, right? Because what if he or she likes it? And what if they pull me into the gallery? That could change everything in my life, right? So, you ask yourself, what would you pay for that? And so what happens is, I can't speak for all competitions, but most competitions have relatively prominent people, curators, editors, gallery owners, top artists. And what would you pay to have that top artist notice your painting? And we have, for instance, we always try to get a lot of gallery owners and gallery curators and museum curators. And we have had many, many situations where they're judging a painting. And by the way, they don't know the names. They never see the names. But they're judging a painting, and they fall in love with a painting, and they, maybe they make it a finalist or something. Maybe it makes it all the way to the end. Maybe it doesn't, but they're paying attention. And I've heard from a number of artists who've entered our plein air salon who've said, hey, that judge called me and invited me into their gallery, or they called me and said, "Hey, do you mind if I introduce you to so and so because I think your work is really good." And when you enter multiple paintings, then they get the impact of a body of work. Galleries love a body of work, and they're going to want something that shows that you're consistent. You can have one good painting and 20 bad ones. They don't want that. So if they're seeing, I judged the ARC competition recently, and I saw several paintings from one particular artist, and somehow I could tell it was the same artist. I didn't know the name, but it was like, wow, this person is consistent and they're good. I'm going to pay attention once the finalist names are announced so I can do a feature on that artist in the magazine, because I thought, well, this is great. And so that kind of thing happens. So this is gallery recognition. It could be publicity and other things, but prizes and money are wonderful. Covers of magazines are wonderful. If you enter the plein air salon and you win, you get $15,000, all cash, not pretend cash, but all cash, meaning pretend cash is, a lot of people will say, well, we're going to give you $15,000 worth of value, and that's just a bunch of stuff you don't care about. But $15,000 in cash, and then you get the cover of plein air magazine. Well, you're on the cover of a magazine being seen by hundreds of thousands of people in bookstores and newsstands and all these subscribers and all that. That's a big deal. And I mean, that's a big, big deal. There are artists who are prominent artists who have strived their whole life to be on a cover of a magazine and never done it. And you get the cover of a magazine, that's worth the effort. So, the idea is about instant exposure. You could, I teach marketing, and marketing is something that is a process that you've got to do over and over and over again, but you can have explosive moments that will skyrocket a career. And one of those explosive moments is winning something. I can tell you that there are many people who were unknown nationally, maybe known locally, who won our plein air salon, who became instant celebrities, who all of a sudden, the minute they win, we're putting their picture in the magazine on the website, you're putting it everywhere. And all of a sudden they're getting known and their painting is getting known. And all of a sudden they're getting calls from art galleries. Say, hey, we'd like to have you in our art gallery. They're getting calls from somebody who's doing shows. I remember one artist said, the first thing that happened is I got called and invited to be a judge. Me, a judge? I've never been a judge. And so there's a lot of value to that. And, it's great if you win, but and when you win, when you become a finalist, even in one category, like we have 20 categories. So if you were a finalist in the sunset category, and maybe there aren't a lot of entries there, you're going to get noticed and you're going to have something to talk about, something to put on your resume, something to forward to your list and your friends and to put on social media. And all of that is career building and marketing. And so, it's really not about winning. Winning is really sweet, but what's sweeter than winning is building a career that is going to last a lifetime. And that's why you do it. And that's why we have hundreds of people who enter 5, 6, 7, 8 paintings every single time. And they will sometimes enter those same paintings 5 competitions in a row, because one judge didn't pick them, but another judge did pick them, or another one after that picked them. And we've seen this happen. So, every judge has different things that they like. So anyway, I hope that you understand that this isn't about the prize. This is about the journey. Anyway, that is today's Art Marketing Minute.
This has been the Marketing Minute with Eric Rhoads. You can learn more at artmarketing.com.